So good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name's Michelle Beyo. I'm the CEO and founder of FinAvator. Um, and I am really here today to try and help in the sense of the current pandemic and what is that doing to our businesses in so many respects. And when I thought of that and I thought of the opportunity to speak again at the Toronto um, entrepreneurial conference, which I did in person in November and had the opportunity to be on stage and talk about fintechs and the future of payments. And it was a great event. It was great to see everyone. And this is definitely a new world as we try and attempt this virtually. And I was thinking of the title of what should we be talking about in the sense of how has payments really truly been affecting everybody's business. And I really feel that it's just the true importance of contactless payments in the wake of this global pandemic. And I wanted to take on this topic because I really feel that it's a big challenge as people are trying. Robert was speaking about this in his Survival and Thrive discussion just before this my session. And really, he was talking about the sense of, how do you accept payments? And payments are so important to small business. And it's really important to get access to them now. So I really wanted to jump directly into why I feel that contactless payments are so important. And what I'm going to do is just jump back to my presentation. Hopefully you guys can see this. So really, when you think of payments, you think of POS, you think of in-store, you think of online. And I think it's just truly important to kind of grasp all the different types of contactless payments. Really, when you look at a global scale, some countries have had faster adoption of contactless payments than others, and in many different fashions. So just to kind of highlight the advantages of what contactless payments are, they're definitely more secure in the sense that when you go to POS, you can tap using many different methods, your credit card, a wallet, a QR code, which we'll get into more detail on. But just the reduced risk of the virtual transmission of this virus, right? The handling of cash has become something that is really detrimental. And as you see, even WHO, the World Health Organization, has spoken to the fact that contactless payments are the preferred method at the moment because cash has had to be in quarantine for 2 weeks in different countries and central banks all around the world, truly trying to protect their citizens from other methods of contacting this virus. And cash is so important to an economy. But I think in this new era of digital, we have so many different options that we can go to that are just safer, that don't carry the disease on it, and that don't even have to put your staff at risk at that same time frame. And just integration to reward programs, loyalty is so key in this market as well. And I think when you look at the ability to have a wallet or your credit card rewards still being able to be earned through this time in a safe way is really important. And then just the increase from a speed perspective, it's so easy to use a contactless payment at POS if it's enabled. So there's so many benefits when you look at contactless payments. And I really wanted to give a deeper dive just because I'm kind of a payments geek. And I know that when we look at the consumer market, Canadians are very safe. We're very used to credit cards, but we were actually one of the first in North America to have enabled credit cards with chips, which are EMV and NFC, which I know I'm getting into a little bit of acronyms, and I'll explain what they are. So EMV is really just EuroPay, Visa, and MasterCard came up with this chip, which is secure, which has cryptographic abilities so that it can't be utilized as easily by counterfeit, by credit cards that were utilizing mag stripes and faking credit cards, which became a really big issue. So you see this chip and pin concept in Canada happened in 2015. And so pretty much all of our cards in Canada have this chip and pin. Even most prepaid cards have this chip and pin perspective, especially for reusable prepaid cards. And I think it's just really important to understand that fact, because when they do have that chip, first of all, they're more secure. There's a huge Canadian adoption, which I mentioned, and just from the limits perspective, so you can do a chip and pin at POS, which we're all used to, but not many people use tap, which is enabled on their card, super easy to utilize. And I think a lot of people challenged with that is because the limit was at $100. So you could tap for small purchases at your Starbucks or your Tim Hortons. But when it came to groceries, sometimes that became a challenge because your grocery bill, I don't know about yours, but mine is definitely over $100. So people stopped using the tap functionality. But as you look, and we'll get into the reasons why it's so important now to have that functionality. But also there's digital wallets. So when you look to digital wallets, it's really that card, that credit card enabled into a wallet. So Apple Pay is attached to your preferred credit card. Same with Google and Amazon. So really what that's allowing you to utilize is a wallet that is on your phone, which you're most likely taking with you if you're going on a walk or a bike ride. You don't exactly want to fumble through your purse at the moment to grab your different credit cards either. So it's really great to have your favorite credit card with your loyalty that's already attached to it enabled in your phone. And very simple, easy to use, also using this near field communication, which is this tap functionality to allow you to pay. And then there's QR code payments, which are really, really popular in Asia with companies like WeChat and Alipay. And really, it's QR code payment functionality where the amount of growth that has happened in the wallet space is just exponential. When you look at WeChat, for just example, they're an incredibly large app in the Asian market. And they encompass so many different functionalities. They're kind of like your Facebook, your Pinterest, your wallet, your Amazon, all enabled into one app. But from a user perspective, just to give some high level visualization, there's over 1.5 billion users with WeChat. There's over 1.2 billion with Alipay. And then when you look at PayPal, who's actually made some really exciting announcements in the last 24 hours, has 441 million. So just from a sheer volume perspective, you could see how this market is growing, and now growing in the North American market. So just to give you guys a little bit of a video to change it up, here's just a little snippet from Visa and one of their tap to pay commercials. So I think that's just an easy way for you to kind of grasp, like even before COVID, there was a huge adoption moving to tap. And I'm just going to pop out of the presentation mode just to make sure if there's any questions that you guys have popping up. Yeah, happy to share the slides after the presentation, and I'll try and read through some of your comments. And yeah, I'm going to get into the new limits. So yeah, so what's happened since COVID? And I think that's a really important aspect of what's happened in the payments world, and just on a global scale, not just in one market. Oh, I apologize. So when you look at what's happened since COVID, it's just the increase in mobile wallet use and contactless payments since March is exponential. The mass digitization of businesses, small and large, to really try and not only have their workforce be enabled working from home, but also just having different functionalities and different ways to accept payments from their consumers, whether that be online or even curbside pickup and delivery options that they were not uh, uh, utilizing in the past, or even conceptualizing in the past. But then you also look at Visa and MasterCard raising their tap limit from 100 to 250, and that's largely to change that grocery discussion that I was having with you of when you go to pay at retail, you really need that ability to not have to go into your wallet, to not have to touch cash, and also not to touch the terminal, to think of all the things in a grocery store, that you're coming in with gloves potentially and a mask, and everyone at the grocery store has a mask and all of these protections with potentially the plexiglass to try and ensure that we have social distancing. But then you have to touch the keypad, which I think is just something we should all try and avoid. And that's why it's so important to have contactless payments. So now that it's up to 250, many people do not have to touch the keypad. They can really finish their transaction fully through that one tap action. And just another comment, e-transfers from an Interact perspective in March alone increased to 50 million. And that's largely just as everyone starts to think of not just contactless payments in the sense of retail, but contactless payments in the sense of B2B, in the sense of e-transfer of money for invoices versus checks, and just trying to ensure that things are happening quickly and safely. And then when you look at e-commerce sales in Canada, they've doubled since the World Health Organization declared COVID in March. And I think that's a trend that's just going to continue for years to come. I actually, in one of my previous roles, to give a little backstory on myself, my background's quite diverse. I did 6 years in telecom at TELUS for a franchisee. I then did 8 years at a loyalty company, and I actually ended up running Alaska, Lufthansa, Delta, and United Airlines online shopping malls back in the crisis, the financial crisis in 2008. And what I noticed in that time, because we weren't as affected, obviously, in Canada, thanks to our banks, but the online shopping experience in the US was so much farther ahead than it was in Canada, and it accelerated through that time frame. Black Friday and Cyber Monday hadn't even come to Canada when I was running programs back in 2008 for United Airlines and Alaska and Delta. And what happened in that time when there was the whole financial crunch was largely that I was able to help accelerate sales at Macy's and Nordstrom's and other retailers through the online shopping mall platform because we were giving miles. And not only were they able to find deals, they were able to get miles for those deals. And they were being very price conscious because they were able to shop and kind of do product search at the time. And we saw sales skyrocket almost 300%. So in times like these where big challenges are ahead of us, I think there's also mass opportunity for us to find growth and to help innovate from a business perspective. So how might businesses take advantage of this challenge that we're all going through that is so devastating for so many companies? So I wanted to highlight 3 companies, 2 Canadian, 1 American, on different ways that they've gone around innovation in the wake of this pandemic. And I want to start with Pizza Pizza because I have a family of 2 kids, a husband working from home, and we're doing all the social distancing rules. And as a business owner and a CEO, I'm spending a lot of time in my basement. I don't know if you can see, but it's actually used to be my husband's drum room / now my office. And we needed to order pizza. We really just needed a moment where we ordered some pizza. So I did some research and saw that Pizza had come up with this contactless delivery, contactless payment, contactless delivery service, which really they just leveraged all the things they already had as a business. They just did some marketing spin to truly call it contactless delivery. And really what that essentially offers is when you call into Pizza, they say, would you like a contactless delivery? You say yes. They take your credit card like they normally would. They charge you for the pizza. You can leave a tip in advance so that you don't have to touch the terminal. All payment is taken care of in advance. but then they also ask for instructions of where would you like the pizza delivered? Would you like it at your front door? Would you like us to knock? Would you like us to ring the doorbell? Would you like us to call? And therefore, there is no contact with the driver whatsoever. And they didn't have to do any technical innovation to drive innovation and to drive consumer comfort. The other thing that they did, which I thought was quite interesting, is they added a sticker to the front of the box so that it's a tamper-proof sticker to know that your pizza has not been opened until you get it. And I think they've done a phenomenal job in that sense for consumer awareness and just comfort in a time of panic. The one challenge I think that they have is when you go to reorder, you can order your last pizza. It can come to your house. They have your address, but they don't have the service of this contactless experience as part of a preset, okay, now I want it to knock on my door, leave the pizza. You actually have to speak to them to ensure that you get the contactless service. So I think there's one small challenge there, but I think they've done a great job of innovation in this time. And then Shopify, two things. One, they became the most profit driving and number one stock in Canada since COVID. They've overtaken RBC. They are growing exponentially. They just announced a couple things in the last couple weeks, if you haven't seen them. One, a partnership with Facebook to enable online shopping through Facebook, which was announced yesterday. And two, they've also announced a contactless or a tap POS system that they could bring out to small and medium-sized businesses that can pick this up quite quickly so that they can enable contactless payments safely for their customers. And I think it's so important to do such a thing just because there's so much struggle in the small to medium-sized business at the moment. There's Square who has this option. There's Shopify. But I wanted to mention Shopify today largely because they've also made this partnership with Facebook, which might help entrepreneurs out there who have a Facebook store as well as an in-store, or if they're just wanting to also take payment in line, I think that could be something that can happen as well. And also really exciting announcement yesterday is PayPal announced their QR payment infrastructure that is going live in 28 countries. And this is very similar to WeChat and Alipay in the sense that you could put up a static QR code that can go in front of, let's say, your farm or fruit stand, or even if you're selling bracelets or whatever you might be selling, you can put up a QR code for the cost of that. Consumers can come by, they can scan that QR code, they can send you payments safely and directly without even having the need to enable a full POS infrastructure. So really enabling this kind of WeChat Alipay growth play of QR payments and bringing it to more of a North American, European market set to really gain scale, because right now PayPal's at 305 million users and Alipay, for example, is at 1.2 billion. So someone within this market set is going to be picking up a large aspect of volume. And I think PayPal's made a really important, strong move yesterday that's going to, actually have some really quick effect for the market. So just some quick takeaways that I have seen from what's happened in the COVID response to what's happened from a consumer perspective. And I think this trend was already happening, but it's been massively accelerated due to this current state. So obviously just the reduction of cash use from a global scale, which has actually got countries starting to talk about digitized currency because of the fact that it is very challenging to hold money for 10 or 15 days to ensure that it doesn't have any germs on it before they reintroduce it to the market set, and money coming in from different countries and so on. So there is a very big move on that front, and contactless payments are the way of the future. I think that's now a decisive comment that people are very conscious of. It's accelerated the adoption of mobile wallets, tap pay on credit cards and debit cards, as well as prepaid cards, and just the new and acceleration of North American acceptance of QR payments, especially with that PayPal move. And payment innovation options are just widely available and easily accessible, whether you choose Square or Shopify or PayPal. There's just so many different options. And even if you don't innovate on your payment infrastructure, you could do what Pizza has done and innovate on your marketing message and how you talk to your consumers. So I really wanted to give you guys a tidbit of kind of how I see the acceleration of payments. And my job as a CEO and why I started FinAvator is largely to help fintechs, small to medium-sized enterprises, just innovate and drive to the digital future in so many different ways, whether that be digital marketing, digital payments, or just enhancing products that they currently have for their consumer market shift. So happy to connect with anybody for a free consultation to truly try and help your business take the next leap. I really do feel that the Entrepreneurial Society has brought so much to Toronto and allowed people in so many different ways to connect and discuss. Like, I think this is my first live virtual chat. I went to 15 conferences last year in 6 months. So it's really nice to be able to kind of interact, but I do miss the personal interaction, and happy to connect with anybody on a networking discussion after this or through LinkedIn to have a discussion and truly try and help with your business. And as I finish the slides just slightly early, I'm going to go back. There's a lot of comments kind of in the chat, but really trying to answer some of those questions. So online ordering, curbside pickup, new way for virtual reality for sure for businesses. I'll happy to share the slides after this presentation. Utilize that. I see John works for Global Payments, which I know quite well, offering online shopping cart, which is great, and online ordering, curbside. It's just so important that there's so many different companies out there trying to help people in this current perspective. And absolutely, Visa and MasterCard jumped to increase the limits. And the reason why they're lower before is from a security perspective, fraud perspective. But I think in this market, it's really just important for people to have access, not to have to fumble through their wallet or find cash or touch the POS terminal and that actually put in their code, which can cause the transmission of this virus. So yeah, I think the increase is really, really important. And just reading another comment from John, pay by web, pay by phone, online ordering, and POS. So I think, when you look at different options, there's so many different ways that you guys can interact. And I think it's so important that we all connect and find different ways that we can help each other in this very challenging time. Because you can look at this event in many different ways. And I think the best way to look at it as an entrepreneur is, how do we work together? What's your expertise? What's mine? What's your business do? How can we interact so that we can truly drive change? And I think that's how we will come out of this as a stronger entrepreneurial society with more business and opportunities for growth and innovation. And I really hope that we get to have discussions on that. So I have a question here: international transactions, will there be 2 POS and 2 changes? So I'm not sure how to address that, Chuck. From an international transaction perspective, a lot of companies are helping in the SME, SMB perspective. So, 2 charges. So there definitely has always been a different charge ratio on your credit card for different, like Canadian charges from Visa and MasterCard are very different than if you have foreign exchange or foreign charges from like US perspective. So if you're doing cross-border charges with US credit cards, which funnily enough, they are only, they are chip and sign, not chip and pin in the US, but there definitely usually is a different charge when you're getting a US credit card paying for something in Canada, or the opposite. So I hope that answers your question. But I do think there's so many different options out there that, as long as, if you're looking for something, I'm happy to try and help. I think there's many different ways that we can really try and drive efficiency as we kind of move into this new era of payments and online e-commerce. from that perspective. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that this was an insightful and informative session for you. I'm here if you have any questions afterwards. Please reach out. I will stay on the networking until the close of the event. And just so thankful to Rachel and Mark for inviting me and having me here today. I'll make sure to share out the presentation for everybody. I hope that you have a great day. Thank you.